Brock Purdy's performance. Shanahan is a play caller. This defense where Baldy says the only D lineman who played worth the damn was Nick Bosa. That's a problem.
Were you surprised by that comment? Because I was not.
No, we watched the game. We know how bad it was. You know how bad the defense, the front seven was against Detroit.
I mean, like, my big takeaway at halftime was, and again, halftime, I know you got to play the whole game, but I was like, all right, complete scheme change in the offseason. We need to scrap this D-line. I need a whole new personnel upgrade. They're just paying way too much money on that line to get that type of output.
Yeah. No,
it's a very simple math equation for me.
They're going to have to retool that entire defensive line. You got to get faster. You got to get stronger.
Speed is important.
They just don't look quick or athletic at all. And, it could be, I don't know, man. I'm looking at the Super Bowl, and we'll get into it. And I'm just thinking, man, Purdy and company are just going to have to be on point. They're going to have to score, and score some more. You can't settle for three. You can't throw interceptions. You can't turn the ball over against Mahomes. That's what Baltimore did. They turned the ball over against Mahomes. 3 turnovers. Lamar Jackson fumble. Lamar Jackson interception into triple coverage. Zay Flowers fumble at the goal line. Those are the differences in a big-time game. Troy Aikman always says it. When I play these games, and he said it in 2021, I'll never forget it. Joe, these games come down to not who's going to make a play, but who's not going to make the mistake. Defensively, we're making mistakes left and right. I'm glad you asked him, who is it on? Is it on Steve Wilks or the personnel?
Well,
it's personnel.
I think if you were to gauge the and I know Twitter isn't everything, but fans and Twitter, in the stands, it was Steve Wilks, Steve Wilks. People were screaming about Steve Wilks at halftime. And then I looked on the phone, and I'm on X or whatever it's called, and everyone's like, Steve Wilks. I look on Instagram, people are direct messaging me, oh, Steve Wilks gotta go. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting here watching, and I'm like, look, I hear you. I don't think he's the greatest DC on the planet. Do I think he's Belichick? No. But I also, don't think they have great personnel right now. Yeah. Their safeties are taking poor angles. They've got a third linebacker, Oren Burks, who I don't know how many teams he's playing on.
Yeah.
I just being real. Their D-line is getting zero push. They're winning no one-on-one battles outside of Bosa. So, and in their cornerback situation, they have a third corner who's not very good, and it's tough to play DB in the NFL in general. Yeah. But I look at their personnel and I'm like, I don't think they're anywhere near what they were in 2019, for example. This matchup that they're facing with the Chiefs, the defense we saw in 2019, though not as elite maybe in terms of accolades as this defense, I think they were in better form and a better defense in 2019 than what they are currently.
They're a completely better defense. The secondary is better. You had the wisdom of Richard Sherman. Emmanuel Mosley was very underrated, a very good corner. The safeties I thought were better. Jimmy Ward was a very good player. Yeah. Tart was good that season, even though he didn't create any turnovers. Hell, I thought last year's defense was a lot better than this year's defense, even though the sack numbers didn't show up. But I thought the secondary was a lot better. You dropped Jimmy Ward into the nickel. Very, very good. Diablo Lenore was surging. He was ascending last season. Charvarius Ward, of course, had a solid season. But that 2019 defense with the NASCAR, the gold rush pass rush there with D Ford and the tall furs, the Oregon tall furs with Eric Armstead and DeForest Buck, that defense is so much better than this one. It's not even close. Now, we thought, and this is something that I figured out in September with this football team, we kind of talked about this, that this could be the year that the offense carried the defense in terms of, hey, if you give up 15 to 17 points a game, it's not the end of the world because we're going to blow teams out. We're going to be explosive. We're going to average 30 a game. So this offense has been able to carry the defense, and in their last game of the season, they're going to have to probably do the same thing. Carry the defense and hope the defense could just get a couple key stops and hold Kansas City down offensively because they're going to try to explode and exploit some of the mismatches here. But this defense, man, I've always believed it was personnel, Shasky. Guys got to make, think about Minnesota. Charvarius Ward before they get into half. Okay, it was a dumb blitz idea. Cover zero blitz.
But you got to make
idiotic. A play. But your players got to make plays at the end of the day as well.
No, they go hand in hand. No, there's no doubt about that. But I do believe when you miss one-on-one tackles, we could scream and point at the DC all we want. Sometimes you got to wrap up. You know what I mean? And be in a position to make plays. Tig Brown, there was a play. He was 2 steps slow on a play that he should have broken the pass up at minimum. At minimum. Maybe at best he picks it off. But, like, if he just reacts a little quicker and drives into the ground a little quicker, bang, he breaks it up. Instead, Amon-Ra St. Brown catches it and gets a first down on a key third down. How about the 3rd and 12 run by the gunplay?
Jahmyr Gibbs. I thought it was a great audible by
It was a beautiful audible.
He motions. He gets everybody situated. He
Can we get off the block, though?
Yeah, he realized that as man defense, Penei Sewell pulled to the left and just creamed Jair Brown on the edge there. And it was an easy 13-yard run for Gibbs. The wide receivers, their wide receivers, we talk about our wide receivers making blocks downfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, those jokers could block in Detroit.
I agree with that. You know, you bring up like last year, just forget 2019, but just last year's defense. I understand every year you're not going to keep anyone, like every single player. Like you got to let some guys go. That's the nature of the sport. That's the nature of business. But when you invested what you did into Armstead years ago and you paid him DN money and now he slid back into D tackle, I've been saying for a while, like, it's not great money, even though he's been a good player. And then you sacrifice. You had a choice. You could bring back some combination of Al-Shaair, Jimmy Ward, Amenahue, and those were very important depth pieces. You didn't, and then you used that money and you went out and got Javon Hargrave. And he has not been as good as I wanted him to be, considering the money.
The first month of the season, we're like, wow, Javon Hargrave, look at him. And then it's tapered off. But then we all get excited about the trade for Randy Gregory. We get excited about the trade for Chase Young.
And neither has done much. Actually, I would say Gregory's been better than Chase Young.
Yeah, if that. I mean, not by much.
And then they brought in Cleveland Farrell as well. And
Cleveland Farrell was playing well.
He was.
Probably was playing better than Gregory and Chase Young.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean,
but do you see where I'm going with this? Like, and I know Amenahue's out for the year. Like, you sacrificed some of the depth and you brought in a higher end player. Well, that higher end player has to have impact. Otherwise, you're going to feel the loss of all the depth.
One guy we haven't talked about.
What's that?
He had 3 sacks in Pittsburgh. We haven't seen him since. Drake Jackson. How about Drake Jackson? This guy was a second round pick. Second round pick out of USC.
The highest pick they had the year before.
Faded last season in the postseason, was basically inactive the last few weeks of the season, doesn't play the playoffs. That's another guy that you were counting on, Drake Jackson. If Drake Jackson is performing at a high level, or if he's giving the Niners anything, maybe they don't trade for Chase Young. They don't trade for Randy Gregory, but they made that trade because Drake Jackson couldn't hold up his end of the bargain. And now these picks, like we talk about the Warriors all the time with their picks.
Yes, me.
Wiseman not panning out. Poole's gone. Those are the depth pieces that the Warriors are lacking right now. Well, the 49ers are in the same boat.
I underrated Charles Amenahue in terms of depth. The guy always got to the quarterback. And then I underrated Al-Shaair. I've noticed this year, and I just think that Oren Burks might be a better special teams player. Al-Shaair is a better defensive, base down player for this team. And we miss him. We miss his impact. He was very reliable. Not a perfect player, but an upgrade over what they have. And then I look at the safety position. When you lose Talanoa Hufanga, I don't know. Gibson doesn't look as good. Maybe he's getting a little up there in age. And I think there's a drop-off between Logan Ryan and Jair Brown and Hufanga. Like, he's a good player.
No, he is. He is. And so this defense, man, they got to count their lucky stars because Detroit did anything that they wanted in this football game. But Detroit's going to look at the film.
Yeah.
And I'm not apologizing. I'm taking a win. It's survive in advance. It's not always going to be pretty. But Josh Reynolds dropping the 4th down and then dropping the 3rd down, that hit him right in the hands. Momentum plays. And the 49ers, I'll give them credit I'll give them credit here.
What's that?
They did tackle a lot better in the second half.
Agreed.
They tackled. The tackling in the first half, Fred Warner whiffed on so many tackles. Chase Young, the effort play on Jahmyr Gibbs, touchdown run to Sean Gibson. Their tackling in these playoffs have been subpar. Although in the final 2 quarters, it did get a little bit better there when it came to tackling on some key 3rd downs there. But overall, the tackling in the playoffs, maybe they need to do some Oklahoma drills getting ready for the Super Bowl. I don't know. And Baldy was talking about maybe getting back to fundamentals with the defensive line and learning how to shed blocks and beat double teams. Well, maybe they need to tackle a little bit.
Yeah, this is a very poor shedding block team, which is like crazy.
And tackling. The tackling's been porous in the playoffs.
Yeah. My favorite part of the game is when Ambry Thomas has nothing to do with why a guy drops a ball or why a ball is overthrown and is celebrating like on the group project, like he's the one who did everything. Poor guy, I get it. We're all fired up. Run back to the sideline.
Right.
and just, come on, man.
No doubt.
It was driving me kind of crazy watching it back. I'm not going to lie to you.
No.
He does like this.
Yeah, it's like, no, Josh Reynolds dropped the pass. Like stop.
Flat out.
Jameson Williams basically dropped the pass in the end zone. He'd beat both Jair Brown and Avery Thomas.
Jameson Williams, by the way, I could see why for Lions fans he's maddening. You could see the raw speed.
Oh, my gosh.
And the guy just can't put it all together.
Yeah, no, the talent is there. The talent is there for him. We saw it at Alabama. By the way, he was at Ohio State at first. Can you believe Ohio State had Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba? And then they were recruiting Marvin Harrison Jr.? Yeah, no daddies. We know that. But that is a stacked wide receiver room. Let's go to Mole in Detroit. Mole, what's happening? You're on the roast.
Hey, Bonte Jasky, good morning.
What's up, Mole? Good morning, man.
I went to the game. I flew from Detroit to Vegas, then Vegas to San Fran to Santa Clara. That was the best game I've ever been to in my life.
It's one of them games.
I can't tell you the emotion. Oh, man. But listen, man, I looked at it differently. I think the difference in this game was experience versus inexperience. It showed it finally paid off for us. But you've seen those Lions guys at halftime, before the half, they're waving bye to the crowd. You got to act like you've been there before. We acted like we've been there before, and we showed it. And that was the difference in the game to me. We wanted it more. We had the experience, and we knew how to play in their hands in the second half. And that was the difference in the game, in my opinion.
Good call, Detroit. Good call, Mole in Detroit. What do you think, Shasky?
Yeah, I do believe that there was an experience level to this game. Like, the Niners have been in how many tight playoff games in the last couple of years with this core?
Yeah.
There's something to that. I think the coaching staff has learned. One thing we kind of never talk about is coaching staffs panic sometimes. And I think being in this many high-pressured environments, it has helped Shanahan. You could see he's a different coach now than when 2019, for example, when all that stuff happened.
Yep.
In the Super Bowl.
No, you're right. You're right. He has grown there, the experience factor. I thought he was really good in the second half. And to Mole's point, the experience. You even look at it in the AFC Championship game with Baltimore and Kansas City. Kansas City looked like they've been there before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore hadn't been there, really never hosted an AFC Championship game before in that city's history. And that's, Baltimore comes out in the game. The crowd is fired up at MT&T Bank Stadium, and they go 3 and out. Meanwhile, Kansas City gets the ball. They go right down the field and eat a bunch of clock. They ended up with a Travis Kelce touchdown catch. And in the second half, they didn't get tight. They said, okay, we're not moving the ball. We're not scoring, but we're going to continue to play sound defense. We'll continue to make Baltimore try to put together 12 to 15 play drives as opposed to 7 to 8 play drives. And Baltimore got tight. So it's a good point. Detroit, we saw in the second half, whether you agree with the fourth down decisions, they did get a bit tight.
Yes, they did. They did get tight. I thought Dan Campbell's situational play calling from Ben Johnson and just their timeout allocation, it was just all over the map.
Let's go to Crazy Taco in Montana. Crazy Taco.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. How we doing today?
Good, Crazy Taco. Good.
Hey, right on, guys. So you were asking for stories about what I did at halftime. So I'm at a youth football, and I'm catering that event. And all these kids, 10, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, they're all Detroit Lions fans. It's proximity. We're close to them here in Montana. And all of them were talking so much smack going through the first 2 quarters. And then at halftime, I told them a joke. And I told them, hey, what do the Detroit Lions and Chick-fil-A have in common? And no one could answer. And I told them, no one shows up on Sundays.
Oh, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Everything turned at that point, and I dunked tacos and tamales all over those kids at the end of the night. It was great.
There it is. We got some sound here from Alex Smith that we're going to flip in just a second. He believes the Niners defense is in trouble in the Super Bowl. Alex Smith, of course, played with the Chiefs and the 49ers. He had his best years at Kansas City.
This defense just doesn't feel anywhere near as good as what it was, at least what I thought it was in the middle of the season. I feel like there are a lot of cracks, and maybe that's just because you get exposed by better teams in the playoffs. But B, I'm not feeling really good about them right now. Like, what do they do really well? What does this defense do really well?
Nothing.
Nah, you don't
Nothing.
think. You don't think
look,
good linebacker play?
Good. The linebacker play was spotty. That wasn't Fred Warner's best game.
No, I agree.
Baldy, and I agree with Baldy. I saw Warner miss a lot of plays Look, when I watched that game back in that end of the, we were hanging out for dear life at the end of the first half, right? And Jahmyr Gibbs runs that route. And I know Fred Warner was in zone, but Gibbs was behind him in his zone, and there was nobody there in the deep middle. Goff just missed him. Goff missed him. Go back and watch that play, Shasky. He was wide. And you hear Kevin Burkhardt, he missed him. Just put a little too much on it. And even on the play to Laporta, he beats Dre Greenlaw at the line of scrimmage. Goff just missed it. They were that, this defense right now is not playing well. They're not playing in situations here and there. They're making some plays against the run. But overall, I'm scratching my head thinking, boy, how did they win that game? This defense, it's a miracle they shut out the Lions for most of the second half.
I hear you. I just think Laporta is so damn good, and their wide receivers are so damn good, and the linebackers. They put an unbelievable amount of stress on any defense. And I don't know. I would still say that their linebackers are good, even if they didn't have great games.
I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm not saying that Warner,
because that's the strength of their team.
No, I'm not saying that Warner's not good or Greenlaw's not good.
But they're not playing well.
But they didn't play at a high level Sunday against Detroit.
What about
that? Is a bar game. So
what about Bosa overall?
Bosa stepped up. Pardon me. Bosa stepped up, but he's the only one who stepped up. He's the only one who stepped up. This defense collectively had a subpar game against the Detroit Lions.
Like when I think about years past, 2021, suffocating defensive line, right? They were a suffocating defensive line. 2022, suffocating defensive line with the defensive player of the year in Nick Bosa. I don't see that same level of impact from the D-line. I just don't see it.
Let's go to...
Ibukam was better than Chase Young.
Yeah, Seb said Ebukam. Here's Baldy on the defense.
Put that down for next year.
He plays too high. He likes to see everything that's going on. And, guys are hitting him in the chest. They're getting underneath him. Tight ends are blocking him. But I didn't think, outside of Bosa, I didn't think any of the defense linemen played well. I didn't think Armstead did. I didn't think Hargrave did. Definitely not Kinlaw or Gibbons. I didn't think they got good performances from that front. They got blocked up. I didn't think the run fits with the linebackers was good. I thought Fred was off. I thought Burks was off. I didn't think the run fits looked like a championship-level defense. Honestly, if Fred Warner was on the show right now, I'd go, Fred, on that, Montgomery run 15 yards right up the middle. It's a basic inside zone. Everybody runs that play. The 49ers run as well as anybody. They're double teaming the tackles. The linebackers got to go. They got to go fit that. Burks went one way. Warner went the other way. I don't know what they're whether it was the tight end in motion that threw him off or whatever, but they just opened up the middle right to Tig to make the tackle. I didn't think they I would get back to the basics of taking on double teams, getting off blocks, walking through your run fits. You should get these run fits down where literally you put a blindfold on and you know exactly where you're going.
So again,
that was out of sorts, and it didn't look right.
All right, there's Baldy there. And sorry to cut that off on Baldy. But he's right, and that's why I'm not saying that Warner and Greenlaw are not great linebackers. They're all-time linebackers. They're all-time linebackers. And I don't know if it has to do with the defensive line not getting off their blocks, not filling in the gaps, the A gap, B gap, whatever it is. But that front seven got destroyed by Detroit. They really did. What they put on film,
no doubt.
And Andy Reid's got 2 weeks to digest that. Patrick Mahomes has 2 weeks to digest that. This defense has got to step up. And
the strength of Kansas City for the whole year has been Pacheco. He's been their most reliable entity. Wouldn't you agree? In terms of their impact?
Yep, no doubt. Pacheco runs. Somebody said he runs like somebody stole something from him, or he runs like he hates the grass or something like that.
He's just physical. I worry about him, and part of why they lost that game against Kansas City 5 years ago was the run game killed them at the end.
So everybody's pointing the finger at Wilks, and
it's not on just Wilks. Guys are getting premium money across the board.